Thanks for listening to the Get Over Yourself podcast, brought to you by Carol Fit Stationary Bike Program, 8-minute workouts to get super fit. Perfect Keto, the cleanest, highest potency ketone supplements. Mofo, male optimization formula with organs to boost testosterone. Let's get checked. At-home testing kits. Try LGC.com. Almost Heaven, beautiful compact home use sauna kits. B.rad's macadamia masterpiece, the mind-blowing nut butter blend. And check out bradkearns.com/shop, my personal selection of favorite products for health, fitness, and peak performance. And here we go with the show. I'm shaking my head whenever I think about it, but CEO of Yahoo, Marissa Mayer, banned Yahoo employees from working remotely. This was a few years ago due to a perceived lack of productivity. And this was tracking the logins to the remote server when they retrieved email. So if those people weren't logging in, maybe they were engaged in deep work, but Meyer didn't even want to play that out and just made everybody show up at the office every day, especially in that Silicon Valley traffic where a 13-mile commute can easily take an hour. Take it from me. I was down there doing that for a while. Ridiculoso. Having a life well lived, a rich life of happiness and contentment. The opposite would be pursuing instant gratification with our many modern devices and vices, right? And when you do so, you flood those dopamine pathways to the extent that you suppress the serotonin pathways. Protect that time that makes you more creative. So, like I said, having that discipline, everybody knows that your first few minutes of the workday are immersed into deep work. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 5 minutes, but as long as you're protective of your time, and then protective of your downtime too, because since we don't have any boundaries or barriers anymore with the hyperconnectivity, have some off hours for your brain and especially for your job so that you can regain that balance and cognitive refreshment rather than letting it drip and drain out when you're constantly answering emails deep into the night and doing two things at once. Have a potential to obtain that contentment and that satisfaction. Hey folks, I have discovered a bloody awesome new workout program that gets you results in 8 minutes. Yes, an 8-minute workout. And don't laugh, because the science supports the assertion that a properly conducted high-intensity workout lasting only 8 minutes with less than a minute of explosive sprinting effort can deliver more benefits with less downside risk than a pattern of much longer, more depleting cardiovascular workouts. It happens with Carol, my friend Carol. CAROL stands for Cardiovascular Optimized Logic. It's an artificial intelligence-powered interactive exercise bicycle that learns to apply the exact resistance you need to get fitter over time. This thing is cool. We're friends. I hit it hard. I get benefits. I get results. Basically, what you do is you go into the program on the screen, you warm up for a bit, you hit an all-out 20-second sprint, you recover for a few minutes, you blast another 20-second sprint, see how high you can get your watts up there like the Tour de France guys, you cool down, and you're done. The video guy on the Carol Fit AI website is wearing a suit and tie because the workout is too short for you to break a sweat. Yes, it's hip, it's slick, it's high tech, but it's also legit because the short sprint elicits a cascade of hormones into the bloodstream that prompt fitness breakthroughs and turbocharge fat metabolism around the clock. Indeed, a little goes a long way, and this program lines up perfectly with my promotion of micro workouts and short duration sprints to get the maximum fitness benefits without those downside risks of breakdown, burnout, illness, and injury that happen with the traditional approach to fitness and these long, exhausting, depleting workouts. Go check out Carol Fit AI. The website has all the research. It'll draw you in, teach you all about it. You get a discount for listening to the show and mentioning B.rad when you're ready to get your own bike. And I don't know about you, when you walk through the room and you see that thing sitting there and realize that no, it's not a sweaty hour of pain and suffering, but an 8-minute commitment to continue to boost your fat metabolism, build your fitness. It draws you in. It's so easy to jump on the bike and go because it's short and it's fun. Carol Fit AI. Check it out. Part 2, insights from Cal Newport's wonderful book, Deep Work. Go listen to part 1, where we talked about busyness being a proxy for productivity, the culture of connectivity, the damage caused by hyperconnectivity and distractibility, something called attention residue, where even pulling away for a moment here and a moment there adds up to no good overall. And now we'll get into part 2 with an insight that Newport offers from the late Neil Postman, who wrote prophetically back in 1993. He warned against the culture of technology, where anything representing technological progress was deemed as good instead of weighing the pros and cons. Oh man. Doesn't this hit home today with the advent of the Apple Watch? I'm sorry, but I kind of scared of that thing. I absolutely don't want to get near one. And I hope I never have everything on my wrist, because having a phone nearby is bad enough, right? I think the penchant for distractibility, and I hear people's text messages, dings go off, reading the news, checking the weather. I don't know, can you watch a show on your little wrist screen? I'm not sure. But it's just the morphing of technology with humanity is not always necessarily a good thing. Remember the classic interview on Joe Rogan with Elon Musk, the first one, where Rogan asked if Musk was concerned about the potential for artificial intelligence to take over the world and ruin the world as we know it, or such things. And Musk replied that we already are cyborgs right now, because if we have a phone in our hand, we have all the knowledge that's ever been known to the history of the humanity right at our fingertips. So we're robots already. Yeah, pretty heavy insight. So, getting a little bit of safe, fresh, healthy distance from technology might not be such a bad thing these days. Leave your phone at home, go out to dinner, have an engaging conversation with zero distraction rather than the Apple Watch 100% distraction. Now, don't misunderstand me. It's not black and white here. You can make a list, just like Neil Postman proposed, of the pros and cons. So the many great things about the Apple Watch, it counts your steps, right? So it can encourage you to be more active. It has the safety feature for the elderly. If someone falls while they're wearing the watch, it sends a warning. It sends a message out to caretakers, that kind of thing. But shouldn't we also make a list of the potential downsides? Such as the constant distractibility. How about the electromagnetic fields emitting from a wireless Bluetooth device strapped to your body? Okay, so Newport goes on and talks about examples from modern day examples of the New York Times, the hallowed journalistic pillar of journalism, pressuring their top reporters to regularly tweet. And that's kind of weird, because the New York Times prestige comes from investigative journalism and complex multi-part stories that they want to be seen as the highest resource for really great journalistic investigative work. You might say that having a prominent social media presence would be the opposite of doing wonderful, deep investigative journalism. Another example, I don't know if I put this in here because I'm shaking my head whenever I think about it, but CEO of Yahoo, Marissa Mayer, banned Yahoo employees from working remotely. This was a few years ago due to a perceived lack of productivity. And this was tracking the logins to the remote server when they retrieved email. So if those people weren't logging in, maybe they were engaged in deep work, but Meyer didn't even want to play that out and just made everybody show up at the office every day, especially in that Silicon Valley traffic where a 13-mile commute can easily take an hour. Take it from me. I was down there doing that for a while. Ridiculoso. Oh my gosh. The whole idea of rush hour traffic, especially as we someday emerge from the quarantine, might need to be rethought. It's like, why don't we just calibrate the hours a little differently, including schools? Let the kids sleep in, man. At least, every other month or something. Have school start at 10. The teenagers need that extra sleep. They sail down the freeway instead of contributing to rush hour traffic, because school population is a huge contribution to that morning traffic, along with all the workers that have to get there the same time school starts. Anyway, how about some ideas for how to kick butt and become a deep worker yourself? Here's the good news. Depth, Newport calls it depth, people who do deep work, is becoming more and more rare. So those who are able to disengage, should I start whispering now because it's such a cool secret? Those who are able to disengage from the cultural momentum toward distractibility, busyness, and all that can create a huge competitive advantage for themselves by being more productive than those immersed into busyness, by rejecting the pressure to answer email quickly. Remember, like the science professor that was focused on producing papers instead of email? Rejecting that pressure to participate in email, or to answer email quickly, or participate in social media, you can obtain an additional benefit, which is increasing the meaning and the sense of accomplishment you get from your work. In a 2009 book titled Wrapped: Attention and the Focused Life, author Winifred Gallagher drew some parallels between attention and happiness. The skillful management of attention is the key to living a good life, and it transcends across all different kinds of endeavors, including parenting, friendship, family, relationships, personal health, and fitness. How about a diet or exercise program? Does that ring a bell? In other words, shopping for and preparing a wonderful meal from scratch, being engaged every step of the process, rather than texting for DoorDash and having something come to the door, shoveling it down, and getting back to your distracted work, or even worse, eating the food while you're engaged in the work. Oh my gosh. So the author Gallagher says that who you are is the sum of what you focus on. Her insights came from a cancer diagnosis, where she was resolute not to obsess about the treatments and the prospects, but instead focus on enjoying her daily life. Even though it was an extreme ordeal, she reports that she felt quite pleasant most of the time. You can even use unpleasant situations, such as an argument with a loved one, and turn it into a positive by declaring that the argument has uncovered a need to address an issue that's causing pain and suffering. There's always a positive attribute to focus on. Gallagher cites research with elderly folks showing that they were successfully able to rewire their brains such that the amygdala, that's the primitive part of the brain, the fight or flight, did not respond to negative imagery in the same manner as a young person. So that life experience, that wisdom that they gained, enabled them to actually relax on a biochemical level. Yeah, everyone can do it. It's within our grasp. When you're deeply focused on something, you, by definition, ignore the little intricacies of your day that are not perfect and can add up to major frustrations. You have no time and energy to worry about little personal slates or busy work that needs to get done. On the other hand, when we are constantly distractible, constantly checking inbox and text messages, we are dragged down the drain of negative energy because the idle mind tends to fixate on the negative, such that FOMO and FOQ, remember FOQ from my show with Dr. Harold Goldstein? FOQ too. FOMO, of course, is fear of missing out. And FOQ is fear of keeping up. So the wise words from Gallagher after surviving cancer, quote, "For the rest of my life, I'll choose my targets with care and give them my rapt attention." Then she references the work of the great flow state researcher Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, and who argues that when we're in the flow state, we are the happiest, and this happens more likely at work, at challenging work, than during leisure time. Human beings are at their best when they are immersed into something that's deeply challenging. So deep work needs to flow, it leads to deep satisfaction, and it leads to a happy, content life. And then referencing back on the first show when I talked about Dr. Robert Lustig's book, The Hacking of the American Mind, and the opposite of that description of doing deep work, getting into the flow state, obtaining that satisfaction, and having a life well lived, a rich life of happiness and contentment. The opposite would be pursuing instant gratification with our many modern devices and vices, right? And when you do so, you flood those dopamine pathways to the extent that you suppress the serotonin pathways, and you can't frickin' concentrate or have a potential to obtain that contentment and that satisfaction. So the opposite of the instant gratification of the texting is, let's say, finishing a book. And there are so many dings along the way, and that's my big challenge. I'm sharing it with you. I'm with you. We're in this together. Let's try to do better. Let's try to engage in some deep work. And I know that making little gestures and little victories here, little progresses, like just being able to close that email inbox after maybe checking in for a while in the morning and spending a lot of time away from email, especially as my number one enemy, texts and emails. Oh, it feels good after a while. And then you can build some momentum if you get good at it, right? Just like anything. So here are some tips from Cal Newport to get your deep work game on. Number one is schedule some time. Actually use your calendar and schedule 1 hour in the morning to work on your novel or work on your proposal, work on the high cognitive demand tasks when you're most fresh, and you have some discipline and boundaries and structure in there so that you actually keep to it, so that it means something to you. I talk about this so frequently on the shows about fitness and my morning routine of flexibility, mobility drills that I do without fail every single day, and then jump in the cold tub to build focus and discipline and resilience so you can apply those same strategies to your workplace and have that structure of you arrive in the workplace and the first thing you do is grab a yellow legal pad and look at your to-do list and prepare your to-do list for the day. And even if it takes 5 minutes, the fact that you can do that every single day in a ceremonial manner. So you actually have the yellow legal pad on the top drawer. You pull it out, you click the pen, and you go to town, and you do it without fail, no matter what. If someone's wanting to disturb you or bother you, you tell them you'll be with them in 5 minutes. Yeah, solid gold, solid gold. Okay, so that's number one, is schedule time for deep work. Number two is be okay with annoying people with not responding, or being delayed with your responses, or even cryptic, or saying, sorry, I'm having a busy week. I'm going to check back with you next week. All that stuff has to be okay, and you can't be guilt-tripped into keeping up with the unsustainable pace of social media. I mean, someone's out there, right, with more free time, more energy than you to engage in hyperconnectivity and distractibility, so you have to be resilient against that. Jim Collins, the mega best-selling author, Good to Great, and many other books on corporate efficiency and personal efficiency, he sets a goal for himself every year that 50% of his time is represented by deep work or creative work. And he obsessively tracks this with a spreadsheet. I know it might not be something for every personality to buy into, but it's a wonderful insight to reflect upon, that he is accounting for every minute of his time. And he's a entrepreneur, self-starter. He doesn't have to, but he finds that what works best for him is to make sure he's hovering up at that 50% level. So when he's on the internet making airplane reservations or adding things to his Amazon shopping cart or his wish list, all that stuff is the stopwatch is off, baby. It's not counting. So we got to get back into the flow really quickly and remain accountable every single day. So that's number three, is to track it a little bit and see that you can accomplish some hours of deep work. Goes really nicely with number one, to schedule that time and then stick to it. Number 4 is to protect that time that makes you more creative. So, like I said, having that discipline to everybody knows that your first few minutes of the workday are immersed into deep work. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 5 minutes, but as long as you're protective of your time, and then protective of your downtime too, because since we don't have any boundaries or barriers anymore with the hyperconnectivity, have some off hours for your brain and especially for your job so that you can regain that balance and cognitive refreshment rather than letting it drip and drain out when you're constantly answering emails deep into the night and doing 2 things at once. So that's the number 5, is having that distinct shutdown time. So protecting your time, having a distinct shutdown time. And then finally, number 6, the quote, "Inspiration is for amateurs." Ooh, heavy hitting there, man. You know what he means, right? If you're going to wait around for inspiration to strike you like a lightning bolt, you're going to be in the amateur divisions, as opposed to just putting systems in place, such as scheduling time, such as being okay annoying people, such as tracking that time, and whether you're inspired or not, you get that sheet done. Again, the analogies in the fitness scene, the people that are devoted to their workout routine. I'm a devoted dog owner, so if my dog's here, she is going to get out every single day, because that's the absolute least I can do as the owner of an animal, to get that animal out into nature and to be express her being as a canine, rather than a house pet who's been domesticated to the extent that they lose all their edge, they lose all their joy for life. So if you own a dog, oh my gosh, you got to get that dog out every day. That means you're getting out every day, and whether you're inspired or not, whether you got a cold, whether you're too busy, you get out there just because inspiration is for amateurs. And we'll put some nice links into this show so you can read some highlights about that book, Wrapped, Attention and the Focused Life. You can go get the wonderful book, Deep Work, that inspired these 2 breather shows, and also look into the work of Csikszentmihalyi about the flow state, which is referenced frequently in all manner of different science, including athletics, including cognitive peak performance. So there you go. Deep work. Thanks for listening. Now get to it. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you for listening to the show. We would love your feedback at getoveryourselfpodcast@gmail.com. And we would also love if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a hassle. You have to go to desktop iTunes, click on the tab that says ratings and reviews, and then click to rate the show anywhere from 5 to 5 stars. And it really helps spread the word so more people can find the show and get over themselves, because they need to. Thanks for doing it.